Dawson Rider Repaint.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with a fun little retro review of the Omega Ranger colored version of the Delta Blasters from SPD. These were obviously the Red Ranger's primary weapons in the series, but back in the day we used to do some sort of fun recolors. I remember it primarily from the Disney era lines, but they would do like 6 Ranger colors of some of the Red Rangers or other weapons. And so this one obviously is taking Red Ranger's weapons and coloring them as if they were, owned by the Omega Ranger. I think they did something similar with the Solaris Knight with the dragon weapons from the Mystic Force Battleizer, but it's a pretty cool release. They're primarily the same toy, just with a different color scheme. It's kind of going out of my little bit of an order I have for the retro reviews because I kind of forgot that I owned these, but they're pretty neat. They're nothing too amazing. I think the color scheme kind of works okay, but also looks a little bit funny and almost bootleggy. Like, I think the yellow makes it look a little bit weird. I think maybe the silver and blue would have been cooler. Maybe something a little bit different. It's like they got the colors right technically, but they look a little bit strange in my opinion in some regards, but I think it's like a neat idea for it. So this is the primary one that has the electronics, but it's pretty basic electronics, and you can see the LEDs are going to be coming from up there. So you turn it on here. Is it already on? No, it's on right now, and then you get those little noises here by pressing the trigger. And when you hold it down, you don't really get anything different, but that's just primarily the noise. It doesn't even really sound like a laser blast in a way. It almost just sounds like a spring, this is like a slinky noise to it. And then the other one doesn't have the electronics to it. It's just a regular one, but you do have this trigger bit here, which initiates this little bit of a pump action, which is kind of cool. It feels really satisfying. If I remember right, and I can't remember if I reviewed the original one yet. If I haven't, I'll get to it. But if I remember right, on my original one, this broke, and it still worked, but it didn't click quite as right, and so it's kind of nice to have one that's still satisfying, and you can kind of spin them around. And they're a pretty decent size. I mean, they're a little bit small like you can have with Power Rangers and Sentai weapons, so they're not exactly accurate, but they're honestly pretty decent because it's not as if these are the largest weapons in the show, so they're pretty in the middle in terms of that, so they're not that bad feeling in terms of like, an in-hand feel, or if you want to get the regular ones for cosplay, they're not bad, and they're certainly not the worst painted ones. Like down the line we got much worse painted Ranger weapons, and even though these are a little bit almost gaudy looking, the paint looks nice on them for the most part, and like I like the brushed silver look to it. It's not like a boring gray where it looks really cheap or anything like that. And then obviously one of the fun parts of this is that they can combine, so you just press this bit here and then snap this up, and then you have this mode here, which is just this mode. No, I'm just kidding, it's not even a mode. But then you snap them together like this, and then that's pretty satisfying to do. I really like that. And then you can see right here, there's a little thing that says release. I wish it wasn't as obvious. Like, obviously you want to make it known so it's not that hard to find, and they usually disguise them more on like collector's toys and not the ones meant for kids so that kids can find it easier. But I feel like the release thing here wasn't necessary. Like, this is pretty obvious. It doesn't, get that much in the way. You could have conveyed it in the instructions, but you just pull this here and you can let them go and then snap them back in. And what I like about this is, which I've always liked about this toy, both in this version and the original one, is this just feels really satisfying. I've talked about in previous reviews of various like Sentai roleplay toys and Power Rangers roleplay toys, how there's really neat ones that'll feel just satisfying to use. They have like a nice mechanical feel, which is neat. And I think this looks a little bit better altogether. Like, the colors look a little bit better. I still think the yellow stands out a bit, but I think that it still looks pretty nice. But you get a slightly different noise there with a little bit of a rev up, but again, it would have been nicer to have a little bit of a cooler one. You can do sort of double triggers, which is cool, but this is a pretty basic toy in terms of sounds. Like, these never had too many like sounds. Like, it wasn't like a huge robust library or anything, but some of the ones that came later and even before it had a little bit more different sounds, so I think it would have been nice to have a little bit more differentiation of sounds when you combine them, or just a little more sounds in general for it. But overall, I think this is an okay toy. Obviously, if you're someone that's going for the more accurate stuff and the stuff actually in the show, you're going to want to go for the Red Ranger version. But if you like kind of niche stuff like this is kind of a cool release. And just as a toy, aside from the noises being, lackluster, it's not a bad representation of what it looks like, or at least, what the what if looks like of it. Like, it's got decent paint and decent functionality. That's about it for this one, guys, though. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.